Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.
At first, we hit your gadgets with our state-of-the-art digitalized mobile studio with the debate on the road behind the wheels. Later, we launched our magnificent studios located on Plot 1A, Sewagude Close, Lukulinanganda, Machindye, Kampala, where we bring to you our must-watch shows like The Mighty Drive, Monday to Friday, 8 a.m., Hotline, Mondays, 7 p.m. As for legal matters, Twins at Bar, Tuesdays, 11 a.m., Wednesdays, 6 p.m. is Afro-Caribbean Link, where we connect Africa with the Caribbean. Voltage on Thursdays, 7 p.m., featuring a youthful panel. Interface with Dr. Kiza Besije every Friday, 12 p.m. with his call to action against injustices. Snap Talk, Saturdays, 6 p.m. with the trio. A must-watch, The Political Dice, Sundays, 8 p.m. with the duo that never stammers, and so much more. Watch us live on all our social media platforms. We are the Alternative Digitalk. Real issues, real talk.
The Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.
Good evening, Uganda, and welcome to the Hotline Show. My name is Edgar Mathew Karuhanga. On this 3rd day of February, the year is 2025. We are into a new month, but also a new week. That means we have entered the 2nd month of this particular year. We have a lot of news stories that are going on in the country, but also across. He also, cites out issues of undermining the implementation and also the peace talk process itself being the end of actually these conversations. He says they are not yielding actual results. So what do you think of this particular meeting, and what does it mean for the East African community as a whole, but also the DRC, that government there by Felix Tshisekedi, that is still refusing to actually talk to the M23. So what does this mean for that particular story right there? We'll be talking about that. And also last week on the 31st of January, the Supreme Court of the land, the highest judicial system or governing body, actually confirmed that civilians are not supposed to be tried in what they call the disciplinary committee of the Uganda People's Defense Forces. This general court martial, which they say is not legal in nature, the Supreme Court judges cite out issues of credibility of the members on that particular committee or that particular tribunal. They say also handling of the judicial processes, especially the law, should be done by lawyers and advocates or judges who actually have professional experience and knowledge in the law. And they say the members who constitute the disciplinary committee of the Uganda People's Defense Forces do not have or lack these particular professional skills to be able to give justice or to offer justice to various Ugandans. So what this means is that there is no civilian who is allowed to be tried in the general court martial. And of course, the Supreme Court Justice, in fact Chief Justice, that is Alfonso Winyidolo, said that all cases that are going on in this tribunal should be forwarded to normal courts that have the jurisdiction to actually try people there. The President, Mr. Museveni, came out to say this is a very bad decision that was made by the Supreme Court. He does not agree with it. And of course, citing a conversation he had with the Attorney General, who is the advisor to government and the President in terms of legal affairs, he says they're going to find a way forward because this country is not ruled by judges, so he says. So there's something that can be done to address this particular issue, but according to the legal processes in this country, if the Supreme Court decides that this is the decision is that civilians should not be tried in the general court martial, then that means there is nowhere you can really appeal to, because this is the last court that you can appeal to. So how is this going to be done by the President? And of course, will government and the state implement the directions that were made by the Supreme Court? That and much more is what we're going to be having a conversation about this evening. What you can do is send me a message on our social media platforms at The Alternative Uganda. That is on Facebook at Digital TV, still on Facebook. I'll be reading your messages subsequently as we continue with the program. This evening, I am joined by three candid gentlemen from different political parties in this country. On my extreme right, that is Honorable Pollar Awich, the director at the NRM in terms of external affairs. He's the director of external affairs at the National Resistance Movement. Then in the middle is Mr. Matovu Vianney Ngoma. He is the national coordinator for the Uganda Patriotic Movement, UPM, and he's also here with us. And on my immediate right is Joseph Ochieno. He is from the Uganda People's Congress. He's a president right there, although the political party is still having some disagreements and divisions here and there. So he is from the Uganda People's Congress. You're most welcome, gentlemen. I'll start with you, sir. How was your week and your opening remarks?
The week ended with that amazing yet courageous ruling by Supreme Court justices that the NRA is a military regime, and that what the NRA has been doing is flouting the constitution that they themselves set up, and that Kizza Besigye and others are being unlawfully held in a military barracks. The consolation of, well, I was in Makinde barracks, and it looks like a terrible prison, particularly including where these soldiers could whisk off. But it was almost like what was done in Parliament when Museveni's men invaded Parliament during that time and he wanted to extend his stay. The way these guys carried Aaron Kizza, it was like not only whisking a thief, but whisking some goat. It was very dramatic. I was there. So it's a terrible thing in Makinde. Granted, somehow, after being in that barracks, then they end up in Luzira, that which is trying to correct. I'm just trying to say it's a pathetic thing that Ugandan citizens should be subjected to that. And as a leader of a political party, I don't expect any leader of a political party to be treated the way Kizza Besigye and others have been treated. And as a leader of a founding independent political party in this country, I'm tired that after 60 years you are still going to go through to have this kind of conversations, and that Ugandan citizens should go through that. But granted, as I said, it was a difficult week in the various ways. I made to and fro journeys from the east and other places, but the consolation was that. But the bigger beauty of that was seeing these fantastic, particularly fantastic lady justices making the submissions. You know, for us in UPC, we are the party of women. But at the same time, I personally have a very soft spot for women and young people generally, but particularly seeing women excel as justice in that way. But what is particularly important with that detail is the fact that these people were able to be courageous enough to take a position and challenge the military establishment. So these things is possible.
Okay, just in a minute, you talk about women making, these judgments. Do you give that win to the government of today, NRM, for empowering women to that level?
No. It's UPC that founded girl child schools as early as 1963. Okay. It's UPC that fast-tracked the education and training of women, civil and public servants, so that by 1969 we're beginning to have them prevail. Granted, if you want to talk about numbers in specific places, it has taken NRA to have the numbers that they have. So there are women in public spaces, but not the justices. If you talk about women, including girlfriends in government and wives in government, no, that is fine. But if it's women who've gone through schools and have acquired that in the educational institutions, no, those are the fruits of Uganda People's Congress. And in any case, it would even be patronizing to do the numbers. Women are the majority numbers in this country. They should be majority represented, and in the future UPC government, they will be majority represented. And finally,
Yes, sir.
girl children who continue to suffer, including the fumbled UPE primary living exams, should be catered for, and NR is not doing anything for them.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Honorable Vianney, you're most welcome, sir. Your opening remarks.
Thank you, sir. My opening remarks, I'd like to thank, in the most highest terms possible, the panel and the Chief Justice to honor my pleadings. I was on BTM Live Talk, so
Yes, sir.
I gave out and aired out pleadings with him not betray us like Odochi, Chief Justice, Honorable Justice Odochi, was put in the armpit of the aggressors, self-aggrandizers, stomach power seekers, to write a constitution as a book, as an exercise, as an essay, the Dutch constitution. So, and quickly make us remember whichever speeches, whichever promises, either pledges that we promise, and the agreements we make with our people during the season of seeking for elective leadership.
Exactly.
An agreement in that context comes with two dimensions. The first one is a manifesto. The last one is during swearing in. Ugandans trick you that give a speech after swearing.
Yes.
You think it is an issue of festive and being luxurious that you have achieved a joyous job, fundamental change, fundamental whatever.
That was what Mr. Museveni said.
Those words follows you to the last, and they don't decay. They reach where your actions are contrary with them or in conflict with them. Then the people wonder whether you remember one time in one book, a tortoise went in a colored plumage after smuggling feathers of all birds and gave a speech, a best speech, lastly betrayed them and ended in wretched body. That's why it has a wretched body, the tortoise. Likewise this.
Okay, sir.
So, during the struggle, during the dreams of Uganda and its people, a question of liberation was, Ugandans are the ones to liberate brothers and sisters who are suffering with tyranny in Uganda. So after, we began with 4 objectives. Then later, during the popular struggle, we added 6. They became 10. In those objectives was only one which can cover all: redressing errors. In redressing errors, we had suffered military court, where in exercising the military court, first killed his own ministers and army. Later on, firing squads affected FRONASA and other Ugandans by suspicion, because Tom Masaba of Mbare was not among any faction and critiquing of Amin, but by suspicion was put on
Firing squad.
because Amin betrayed the whole world, and other presidents who have exercised military courts betrayed, because Uganda is a member country of the United Nations.
Okay.
In the United Nations declarations, charter, protocols, they have a law where they condemned military courts within its member countries and described a country with them. It is there. We shall give quotes we have here. We will finally peruse at your disposal.
As you conclude, sir.
I don't conclude. I'm still proceeding with what has been called me here for.
Okay, no problem. Let me come to you, Honorable Awich Pollar. He's the Director for NRM External Affairs. As you give us your opening remarks, there is a question from a gentleman called Arnold Karame. Arnold was talking about how you manufacture members of NRM. Like, the numbers are too bizarre. He says they are actually not true. So do you want to highlight on that? And also, there's a gentleman who's a cadre here, the Executive Director for the Center for African Affairs and Diplomatic Studies, Charles Kazoba. He has also hinted on this issue before. I don't know if you're on set on that day. So what do you think about that as you give us your opening remarks, sir?
Incidentally, I wanted to put that in my opening remark because it happened in the week.
Oh.
Greetings to our viewers and greeting to my colleagues.
Yes, sir.
My week was quite, I think, eventful this time. Remember, I've always been saying no news is good news. But this thing, I think this week I felt there was news. And others were not so good news, for example, external news from DRC. So, but internally, which I want to confine myself, is that over the week, I was in charge at Choli region for the NRM register activity. The Choli region has 9 districts with 1 city, Gulu city. So I moved all over. I moved to Agang, I moved to Gulu, I moved to Moro district. Moro is a Late Jacob Olanya's district.
Yes.
I moved to Agago, that is the Windolos district.
Exactly.
And then I moved to Kitgum, I was with Anyuar, Mama Mabira. Then I went to Gulu. So I pretty covered the entire Choli. I wasn't at my command post. Ideally, as a team leader, should have built a command post and commanded from one place. But I moved. So our activities is going on. And we're doing all due diligence to make sure we come with the right register. Part of the making it a right register is that on Saturday, we had scheduled that we have what we call a village baraza. A baraza means a meeting for everybody to see, are you in the register, are you not, are you, we have people who should not be here. For example, those who have got party cards or leaders in other parties and they have not declared that they have crossed. So we try to do villages. Now, in one village, I attended the village baraza. There were 650 people. That is a village in Baradege, between the Catholic province, the Catholic cathedral and the airfield. So we were 650. Now, on the issue of numbers coming more.
They exaggerated. 18 million.
The number coming more is our concern. If it does, I want to assure everybody, if we have excess number or any other number, it's not because we want a big number. It's because the method we are using to employ data entrance, some people tended to post many names, thereby earning money. So they can put Awich Pollar, for example, and drag, like if you're using Excel, come to still 5 Awich Pollar. So that is now not a party intention to inflate the numbers. It is this one. And we did training for them and we told them it's a crime to do that. But humans as they are, you may find. But we also built in the system that if such occurrences, we're trying to build in the system where the computer should reject. If you put Awich Pollar with the same particulars, ID, age, date of birth, this, it should reject. But some people can manipulate constitution. But we have no interest at all in manipulating numbers.
So you agree that the numbers are exaggerated?
I don't agree, but I say it might be, it may, if it occurred, because I don't even know, even for now, we don't have the exact number. That is why we are back in the field. So how would I say it is exaggerated when me, Awich, the director, I don't know. I don't even know.
But you have shown there are inconsistencies in the system.
Yes,
at least.
so for you to say it is exaggerated, you must know it should be X million, but now it is X plus. So what do we know? Where is the X and where is the X plus?
Okay.
So it is premature, in other words, to say it is exaggerated. It is premature.
Okay.
It is very premature. So that is about the register. So let's wait to judge it at what we call the final document. If this is a final document, that is when we shall wait to know that it's supposed to be X million, but now it is X plus.
Okay.
This one.
No problem.
Now, the other issue I wanted to comment about over the week is the issue of the ruling. Like my colleagues, it was a big news because many of us, especially me, who really came out as from a product of a political commissar of NRA, we are taught objectivity and even accept where there's error. That is how a political commissar is supposed to be. I have been saying before that why can't the Supreme Court rule and this thing is cleared? Whichever direction it takes, let the Supreme Court rule. You see, the law works in that if you pass a law, you think you have done a good thing. Now, the argumentation in courts of law helps to develop that law. By the time the court rules, you see a gap. For example, those who passed the UPDF Act, they thought it was a beautiful law that you will try civilian. For example, it even purported through a regulation passed by a mama that you can appeal to the Supreme Court. The court said, no, you don't create appeal by regulation. You create appeal by an act of parliament. But when you look at the law, it was beautiful. So it is when courts argument the law that you see a gap. Now, the court, you have seen some provisions which are cancelled by the court as being unconstitutional. Therefore, it helps develop the other law, the act. At the same time, the executive also sees a gap to pass new laws to fill the gap. Incidentally, the society works in a way that it is okay to develop the other law by cancelling the inconsistent provisions, but it is not okay to pass new ones. You see? Yes, and yet this is supposed to be a jurisprudence development. That is how jurisprudence develops. That is how the science of law develops. You pass a law, you think it's beautiful. The court sees it, there's a gap. Yeah. It is cancelled, the executive sees, there's a gap. You pass a law. In that way, the country is developing. That is the development of jurisprudence. Okay. So I'm happy that Supreme Court passed it. And therefore, it also opens the eyes of the executive of what to do. After all, even if you are to do something, it should be parliament.
Okay, let's start from there. You said you agree that they finally passed it after a long time. How about the law itself? What do you think about the verdicts that were made by the Supreme Court judges? That civilians should not be tried in the General Court Martial. What do you think about that?
I think the logic is simple. The logic of the Supreme Court is remember, it started from the Constitutional Court. This ruling was a constitutional appeal by the former MP of Nakawa, saying if you pass a law to govern the military, you don't bring me, Mr. Joseph Ochieno, to go to that court. That was the gist of the matter. Is it constitutional to create your army law to discipline the army, and you bring me there, you drag me there? This was the and there was a section which was saying if you are found with a gun or with, they call it the military stores. Yes. If you're found with military stores, exclusive instrument for the army, you should be tried there. Now, the Kazabazuruka, yes, was arguing that all those are crimes. even if you find me with a gun, it's a crime like any other crime anyway. So why do you choose to take me there and not here? Because it's a crime. Take it, I've committed a crime. But why take me here, why not there? So you're taking me to a court. That provision, that section is unconstitutional. So it was a challenge on that section. And the Constitutional Court held that indeed it was wrong for Parliament to pass it, because the law says Parliament should not pass laws which is inconsistent with the Constitution. Exactly. The Constitution is a parent law. So
the law you're making has to fall in line with the Constitution.
Yes. So when the Constitutional Court ruled, the Supreme Court followed the same logic, that this is a law for disciplining the army. The army is a special organ, so the law is intended there. It is not constitutional right to do what? To take soldiers there. That's the logic. So you can agree with their logic, but that is it. Unfortunately, it is the highest court of the law.
Do you agree with their logic?
The logic is either here or there. For example, sorry, laws is what you make, not what is made in heaven. And that is why, like Museveni said, some people make a law that a man will marry a man and a woman will marry a man. And he said that is a law. Okay? So, if the law, and again a law is there to cure a mischief. So it depends on the mischief that a particular society wants to cure. If the society sees that our biggest mischief is civilian getting guns, and that we know that if they take to the other court, this mischief will not be cured. For example, in Karamoja, they have guns in tens of thousands. There were over actually in millions. There were over a million in guns, because some Karamojong had 3. One person, 3 guns. So if you count the guns, they're in millions. So you said now, this is the mischief. And as a society, we should come with a solution. So a solution depends on what you think. And that is why even in America, they think it is to buy man and man marrying is a violation of a right. So to carry that, to cure that violation, pass a law which allows man and woman to marry. I mean man and man. So a law is a mischief. I mean a law comes to cure a particular mischief. So how you cure it is up to you. For example, now if you feel that it cannot be accommodated in the parent act without violation, then you amend the Constitution itself. So a law does not come from God. A law comes from a society to cure a particular mischief.
Okay, some people have an argument like Mr. Museveni, who says that if you are indulging in guns, then you should be ready to face the General Court Martial. Do you agree with that narrative too?
It sounds sensible, because the mischief, as you said, has been seen over a period of time. That if you have a mischief in Karamoja for guns in circulation, and that you pretty know that first of all you want to have a magistrate going to try it, or even the procedure of trying it in this ordinary courts will be slow, then you won't cure it, then it is the people to debate. And who are the people? The people may not do it in a referendum, but it may be through a parliament. So it depends on how you want to address the mischief.
Okay.
Yes.
Let me come to Vianney. Vianney, I'm going to start from there, because I'll come to you, son, and we talk about how Mr. Museveni says that even the civilian courts were fearing Karamoja. They could not even go to such places. But Mr. Vianney, what do you think about this particular verdict that was made by the Supreme Court judges on 31st January, that no civilian should be tried in the General Court Martial, and as we speak that all cases should be taken to the civilian courts?
In blue and print, it is voiced that civilian shouldn't be tried there. The Supreme Court was correcting one thing. When we were starting this government, right away from the independence to date, we had 3 arms. But when you create military courts, you create the 4th arm. They were uprooting the illegal 4th arm to correct to the 3 arms. Let us go by word to interpret it by its context of form and content. Adjudication. What comes by that word? Adjudication and adjudicators. Adjudication is for judiciary in the arms of governance. Is not for institutions of government. This judgment is not only for civilians, not to be tried in military courts. Is to change what was a military court to be a tribunal, a disciplinary institution.
Yeah, that is what the CJ was saying.
It is far, far dangerous when you take its root and its internal content. It is not good for the fountain of honor. Those who made that law in Parliament had been fed up with him, and they couldn't have a way how to overturn him. They came with that law to overturn him.
What do you mean?
This is what I drive to. In military, when you create courts there, you create the highest chances of desertion. In military, to uphold the military, you uphold with discipline. The disciplinary action of military is not punishment. When somebody offends, you discipline, he goes on with the task and the role. But when you create it a court to themselves and others, when I offend, and I know that when I come, I will have to get a sentence beyond 8 and something, I run away.
Yes.
This brother of mine knows it. He had ever done it, and I have ever done it as a testimony. When I go to my master, this one, and seek for a leave, he refuses. During our time, I go. Knowing that when I come back, they give me an exercise called punishment, I continue. But when I go,
sentence you
when I go and know that when I come back, they will sentence and diffuse my benefits with a legal word called disgrace. Disgrace. I can't come back. It is only that the reason why we see it as if it is good, it is only that there are some of the information which are classified. But if we can expose them, and you get those who have deserted from UPDF, because of that, there are very many. But it cannot be disclosed. In the army, since then, the era of colonialism and the era of independence to date, when you go in their records, there is no record stipulating that one time given moment at a certain place, a military officer has left the service with disgrace, or has left the service in Ruzra and other gazetted prisons, being sentenced by fellow army officers. When you create so, this one ceases from being a brother. Because in the army they have that brotherhood.
Yes.
Where you break the organs. When this one falls, in the military court, is an enemy. Because now Awich Pollar, he cannot disclose this, but I can represent them to expose it. Doesn't love the court. and those who are serving in courts. Because he sees them that whenever you report him to them, will penalize him most. So that's not good in an institution which is supposed to do with a teamwork.
Based on brotherhood,
With
yes.
a teamwork.
It undermines that particular
It
ideology.
undermines the brotherhood, the teamwork. Now those, and even it has spoiled military police.
But for the Supreme Court seems to agree that it's okay if it does its job to the military.
No.
For him, that's not their
I want
concern.
to object the suggestion by,
Their concern is the
by the
civilians.
Chief Justice proposing that they create a division
Yes.
within the military. No, it's very risky and wrong. Read the judiciary. When you are reading in the Constitution where they grant independence to the judiciary, they request government institutions and those topmost people within the executive to support court to execute its work. What they should do, the military, the police, and the like, should support judiciary to do its work, not to create another wing at a parallel execution with the other in the same work. That's not good. And within a party of my brother, to believe in courts is very wrong.
What do you mean by that?
Because fathers of this gentleman were persecuted in those courts. To settle a problem and cause it back, it is like when you want to fill a hole and you dig a fresh one, you remain with a hole. So if they can bring the revolutionaries, the critics, by then, who died in court martials, and yourself who removed such a tyranny, and you create it back, what you should know is one thing.
But this thing you're saying it has been here for 20 years, so it was created and it has been in existence for 20 years. So that means it's serving their interest for those that you mentioned.
The reason why it was created is by one weakness. When you surrender power, when you surrender your advisory role. All of us, we surrendered to Parliament. When Parliament is annoyed with us, can make a law to crucify us. That one didn't come from any party, from any topmost leader. It came from Parliament by then, which made the act of UPDF within that act court betrayed by the following organs within the Ministry of Justice and Constitutional Affairs, Attorney Generals. In Uganda, we have a problem. We have never had an Attorney General who is friendly to the people. When you find Honorable Chiriowachwanuka appealing in conflict with a constitutional court, appealing that...
Yes, because it's not appeal.
I know, when you appeal, what comes out of you is that you enjoy the rule that they penalize military and civilians. That's the reflection of it. When you read it like Chiriowachwanuka should come out because he's an advisor of government. He should be the one advising us that, my friend, you made a mistake here. What should be done in this one? On record, on your press,
because he's the advisor of government.
Chiriowachwanuka appeared one time in a conference of judges, influencing judges that when they bring me tortured and beaten, the judges cease from looking into that human rights and leave the matter and first handle that one, that they should take me. These prisons officers, when I had this spokesperson with them, they are in conflict with the act.
How so?
Because the Prisons Act says that a prisons officer is not allowed to admit a person whose life is in danger. And that's why a level of somebody who is beyond superintendent in prisons is a sworn in justice of peace. If they can say, either message it or starve to death, they are no longer peacemakers. Because it is a justice of peace. When you go to this act of amnesty, when you want amnesty,
To be granted amnesty.
you can report to them when you are in their prisons. They can bring that report, you are heard by amnesty. But if they can say, we have them all forever, the solution is one, either to stay and be penalized or run away from them.
Okay.
So we must follow the law in its form, whether we like what is written or not. Because the law is not there to praise my ambitions. I may have grudges with my brother. I want him dead. But I cannot influence a law to give me an opportunity to kill him.
Okay. When we come back, we shall talk about now the implementation, because as you say, we have to follow the law. The law has mandated that all people who are being tried in the General Court Martial should be not be tried there.
And the prey of
But
the
the
law,
message is still inside.
the prey of the law
Yes.
and practice of the law.
Okay.
We don't exercise it with those who studied law and those who are in service with the law. We exercise it with those who are outside the pitch looking.
Okay.
Reports
Yes.
from the outside world about this. Because the Chief Justice used one word. Others I
take a
don't.
break. Yeah.
Others I don't want to know. That whichever practice in adjudication that is happening in the court martial should cease, was seized by the hammer, because the court acts by the fall of the hammer.
Okay, let's take a break. That is Vianney Ngoma, the National Coordinator for Uganda Patriotic Movement. We take a break now. When we come back, we continue with that conversation, but also see the implementation and Museveni's side of the story. Does he actually have a valid point, or is this political as usual? We take a break right about now. My name is Edgar Mathew Karuhanga. This is Digitalk TV.
The Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.
At first, we hit your gadgets with our state-of-the-art digitalized mobile studio with the debate on the road behind the wheels. Later, we launched our magnificent studios located on Plot 1A, Sewagude Close, Lukulinanganda, Machinde, Kampala, where we bring to you our must-watch shows like The Mighty Drive, Monday to Friday, 8 a.m., Hotline, Mondays, 7 p.m. As for legal matters, Twins at Bar, Tuesdays, 11 a.m. Wednesdays, 6 p.m. is Afro-Caribbean Link, where we connect Africa with the Caribbean. Voltage on Thursdays, 7 p.m., featuring a youthful panel. Interface with Dr. Kiza Besije every Friday, 12 p.m. with his call to action against injustices. Snap Talk, Saturdays, 6 p.m. with the trio. A must-watch, The Political Dice, Sundays 8 p.m. with the duo that never stammers and so much more. Watch us live on all our social media platforms. We are the Alternative Digitalk. Real issues, real talk.
Hi, Rogers. Can I ask you something?
Shoot.
What does corruption mean?
Well, summarily, corruption is abuse of public power for personal gain or for the benefit of a group to which one owes allegiance. For example, when a public office is abused by an official accepting or soliciting a bribe. By the way, private people can be corrupt too, like bribing police officers to escape fines.
Okay. So exactly how does that concern me?
Well, do you pay taxes?
I guess, yeah. What does that have to do with this?
Everything. Because those taxes you pay are supposed to facilitate services you use, like water, electricity, roads construction, medicines in hospitals, name it.
Okay, that is much bigger than I thought. But it can be stopped, right?
Well, yes it can, although it may not be as easy as it sounds. And here is the reason why. Corruption roots are grounded in our country's social, political, economic, bureaucratic traditions and policies.
So, what has kept it going this long? I mean, why don't we stop it?
Well, the main reason why it has been here for so long is because institutions are weak, either as a result of poorly defined ethical standards of public service, weak administrative and financial systems, or ineffective watchdog agencies.
What can we do to stop it?
At a national level, we must focus on strengthening the independence and effectiveness of public institutions that fight corruption. At a personal level, we must commit to never giving a bribe.
I promise I'll never give a bribe.
Well, that's a great decision you have made. Me and you now have to spread this message to all our friends. If we all do our part, corruption will be no more.
This message is brought to you by Alternative Digitalk.
The Alternative Digitalk. Real issues, real talk.
Welcome back from that break. You're still watching the Hotline Show. My name is Edgar Mathew Karuhanga. We are into the second and final hour of this show. Remember, every Monday we're here from 7 to 9 p.m. having a conversation on what is happening in Uganda and, of course, painting a picture of some of the solutions we think can be employed to make Uganda a better place. Last week, if you're just joining us, the Supreme Court made a landmark ruling on trying civilians in the General Court Martial, saying that this is actually not in the law. It is not allowed to try civilians in what they call the Disciplinary Committee of the Uganda People's Defense Forces. They cite out a couple of issues, starting from the fact that the people who constitute the General Court Martial lack the credible skills of dispensing justice to various Ugandans, and they say these are not legal officers and lack all the skills that are needed to actually give Ugandans their particular justice in that particular case. So what does this mean? And of course the Commander-in-Chief of the Defense Forces, but also the President of this country, does not agree with this particular landmark ruling. He says this is not actually right and it's a bad rule that was made by the Supreme Court of the land. So what does that really mean to the implementation of some of the findings or some of the resolutions that were made by the Supreme Court judges? And of course, as we speak today, Dr. Kizza Besigye has not yet been released, and we've not yet found any process that is showing that his particular case is being handed or moved to the civilian courts. What does that mean? And of course, generally, this particular case. Let me come to you, Honorable Joseph Ochieno. What do you think about this particular landmark ruling that was made by the Supreme Court of the land, firstly?
As I said, it was extraordinary. It's made my week, made my recent times. But at a stroke of a a moment, it was absolutely and fundamentally destroyed by the supreme leader and supreme ruler of this country, who is Mr. Museveni, by his rather arrogant and unacceptable comments, observations, and interventions.
But you know what's wrong with military justice?
So you hail it, yes? So why ask me?
You just asked me. What do you think is wrong with military justice?
So I'll answer you. But let's say two quick things. One, my colleague here is fantastic for UPM. UPM, I had very low opinion of the political organization, but I've just had a revival, a revival of the organization, and I've been wondering, including during break, why our colleague Vianney here does not re-invite Mr. Museveni to UPM, and why Museveni's son, who's the treat expert at play games with the babish machines, should not be abandoned. I mean, should not abandon their PLU, and the NRA guys should return to UPM. I think, you'd be a very persuasive political organization with the power that it has. So I must say very, very seriously that. But number two, that said, you talk about attorney generals, yeah? Attorney generals. Attorneys general, actually. No, at independence, we had Godfrey Binaisa, who was a very popular, very responsible, and a nationalist attorney general. He advised government at critical moments throughout the 60s, and in particular, he advised government during the 1966-67 crisis, and is actually Godfrey Binaisa's advice to Milton Obote, then Prime Minister, that look, about the move to the republicanism, and Obote on record asked Attorney General that look, I can't kill my baby, in the Constitution, considering the works towards independence. And Binaisa said, look, you will not be killing it. This is actually a popular comment. You will not be killing it. The Kabaka killed it. For you, you'll basically be literally burying it, meaning the independence constitution and the republicanism stuff. And so Binaisa saw the country beyond the UPC, beyond the government, beyond Buganda Kingdom, but really more about the holistic nation system. So therefore, the people of the Republic of Uganda. That is a subject we can discuss in differences of opinion, whatever else happens. The people of Uganda, predominantly, the majority of them, would not necessarily agree with that. But I think that's a difficult kind of decision and advice that an Attorney General should be able to give. And credits to Godfrey Lukongo Binaisa. The Attorney General of Obote too was the most elected member of Parliament, Stephen Modinga Rico, who had the highest votes, not necessarily in terms of percent, but the highest votes in Soroti, somewhere there where he stood. And so he was our Minister for Justice and Attorney General in Obote too. Fantastic guy. His son is now a member of Parliament somewhere in Soroti there, and he was once upon an independent, and Museveni will be excited. He's sort of now NRA leading, for the record, but those are the UPC guys. So the terrible attorney generals we've had is under NRA, and this guy, I must say, who advises Mr. Museveni, Chiwanuka Chiryo, very irritating guy, actually, I must say. And I'm saying so deliberately, partly because I'm a political leader, two, because I am an activist, but also three, because as Uganda said, but as an activist, the guy's actually actively very, very irritating, and really doesn't act like a serious lawyer. Lawyers are my friends, these are my friends, and so he is so much of a kada yes attorney general that he makes the legal profession look rather sick. Comrade Awich talks about the NRA registrar. I have been a leader and a registrar holder for UPC for a long time, both at home and abroad. I was privileged to lead, including chairman membership for the British Labour Party, responsible for registry list. Leaders don't come from the national headquarters to go around the country, basically, to do these things. These are things which are done by members at the lowest level of branches and at one's constituency. But I thought I would say this Because these guys are generally, I think, doing something good for themselves as a matter of interest. But it shows the weaknesses in the political systems of God and also shows the weaknesses in NRA. Now, this guy is going on the ground. It's not surprising that people are going there because in the Uganda today, people think that any grouping of guys who come from Kampala is an opportunity for money. And true, it's not surprising that some of the guys who are doing the work for them are doing activism money for pay. But it actually tells you the manner in which politics has now been substantially monetized. But so I don't know, as president of UPC, we will do related things. But I'm not quite sure whether it will be the job of the Secretary General of Uganda People's Congress to go down Nagongera and ask which members who and add this kind of thing. Granted, these are computerized equipments. We need to localize these things and let these things go down to the grassroots. And if it's happening from the top, it tells you there's something actually wrong. It's not surprising that people have said that this registration thing is preparation for NRA to rig the next election. And then finally, the other one of Comrade Museveni's observations about this constitutional thing, which is basically the question that he asked me. Comrade Awich actually sometimes says that I rarely find good ones for his boss. But I thought it was very, very interesting that Mr. Museveni said in response that the military courts helped us to discipline Karamoja. We cannot and will not abandon this useful instrument for stability. Civilian magistrates were even fearing to go to Karamoja. The military courts have pacified Karamoja and also saved thousands of Karachuna's warrior youths that are now guests of the state in prisons, who could probably have been there now.
Yeah, he has always had that argument.
So, yeah. But, you know, this is a part of the spirit that my UPM colleague was talking about. You know, from a president, I think that's very patronizing.
Oh.
So, on the one, yes, that look, they're now guests, our guests.
Yeah, he says they would be dead ordinarily because they are gun wielding and they are fighting the soldiers. So one would say they would be dead. So instead of them dying, they're actually incarcerated in prisons through the general court martial.
I'm a linguist.
Yes, sir.
As a subject, you know. No, the narrative is bad, and I'm also a politician, and I'm also a communications expert, or I'm also a diplomat. You know. Genuinely, for a head of state, it is wrong language. A president should not say that of their citizen. Guests of the state. You know, the situation in Karamoja is a direct failure of the state. Number two, if it is the case that it has got to take soldiers to be able to do that, then we could as well just say it's ordinary military kind of stuff. You know, I actually argued here that, I think including your programs, if we have issues with magistrates, and Comrade Awich is a lawyer, let's inject money into the judiciary. Let's train magistrates. Let's train more. Let's train judges, and let's get more. Let's equip the judicial process, the new process of the law, and particularly because as UPM guys, they allegedly claimed that they went to the bush to brutalize our people because of the elections and then rule of law. Museveni the liar, Museveni the liar, according to what, you know, Obote was killing our people. You can't be that Mr. Museveni, and 40 years later you're talking like this.
What do you read when he says that judges don't rule this country?
And that's the point I was going to come to. So in finality, Comrade Awich, unfortunately, and I know you're trying to be very diplomatic about it, not to contradict him, because that's all you're saying. This guy simply said, no, this is the Western, judges don't rule this country, I rule it, meaning he does. It's not even the people do. He rules this country, and it's wrong. You know, Ugandans basically just need to wake up that what happened on Friday and the impunity and the transitions that continues today, Monday, Kizza Besigye and others are still in those cells, in those military cells. You know, these people should be released. Now, for somebody to think that Museveni is their mini liberator, that died long time ago. For somebody to think that Museveni is going to do anything better, unfortunately, Ugandans just need to mobilize and organize. And people, decent people from UPM, decent people from NRM, we should really come together as Ugandans, just like those brave judges did, and say, no, Mr. Museveni, there you are wrong. Enough is enough. I think we need to take this country back to a sense of civility.
Let me come to Honorable Awich. I saw you noting down, but also the seriousness of the government to actually implement these things. One feels like the executive is trying to overwhelm other, arms of government, and Mr. Museveni always wants to undermine some of the decisions that are made by judiciary, as long as they don't fit his personal opinion. You remember the issue of bail, you remember the issue of bond. Now this particular law, Mr. Museveni is always, if something that he does not agree with it, it feels like it is wrong. Do you agree with that narrative, or what do you think about that particular narrative, sir?
Okay. First of all, I like to share my sentiments that if the Constitutional Court rules a provision, or a Supreme Court rules a provision to be illegal, it has declared its nullity, that effect. Meaning, therefore, that provision stops to operate. I would therefore not expect that the enforcers of the law, for example, if they are to file new cases in the court, you shouldn't file a case of a similar nature. The registry of that court should not admit it. Should be inadmissible until another law comes, like the one the president is suggesting.
Okay.
And then this ruling says stop any further
forthwith
proceedings. It also means that if you pass a law now, there's a principle called retrospectivity. It means that those who were found with the gun yesterday will not be prosecuted under the
general
new law.
Yes.
Even if you said that law now works, or whatever, the retrospectivity principle will say, this one committed this offense in 2025 January. You have passed this law in May, so it won't work. So I wanted to make that clear. But the other thing I want to
So that means any prosecutions, for example, that can be made in the general court martial over civilian cannot actually be implemented. That is what you mean right now. Okay.
It can't. The other thing is that
yes, sir.
I want to say about the registration of the bosses from Kampala doing. It's not the bosses doing it. Our registration it starts from a branch. A branch is a village. We have village registrar. We have a parish registrar coordinating the parish. We have a sub-county registrar doing sub-county. We have the district. For us, who passed the policy, we thought it was normal and good for us to go ahead and also see our policies that is in place. So if our comrade in UPC feels it is wrong for us to give work to our to give work into our lower registrars, then we wish them well in their methods of work. For us, we have registrars in the village who sit and live in the village. Is a village member.
Yeah.
So,
I want to say that you have 12 people per village in this country.
Those are members.
Those are
but
details. Those are
registrar
details,
is
but
a simple servant. Registrar is a paid person.
Yes.
For NRM.
Yes, it's a paid staff of the party. But also the law says that for you to be a staff of the party, you must be a card holder. The card holder. Therefore, we have our village registrars who are registering our sub-county, our parish, sub-county, and district registrar, and district administrative officers. Now, if you think that it is wrong for a director or a secretary general to be given a mandate of an area to see how are these registrars doing, then do it your way.
No, so you're doing a supervisory tour.
Yes.
Because if you're doing a supervisory tour, no, that's for your members, and good luck with them. You know, that's fair enough.
So I just wanted to clear. Now, on the issue of judges don't rule, I think we'll now answer the question you gave to me.
Exactly.
Say your question.
When a president comes out to say that judges do not rule this country, and this is not the first time that he's undermining the rule of law precedent. He stopped judges from giving bail one time through a directive. He directed that no police bond should be given to petty thieves. The president is becoming law.
Okay, judges not ruling, and also the role of the president in this case, the chief executive. You see, when he said judges don't rule, is he saying, he's separating the arms that he said, the executive, the judiciary, and the parliament. He is saying judges are to interpret the law. And that is why if you put something now in the constitution, if you cure it, the judges will have no option than to say this is in the constitution. They interpret what you give them. So he's not saying, he's saying as a chief executive, as the driver, if anything happens in the country, it is the driver of that bus, the president. And he's saying this because Article 1 of the Constitution says power belongs to the people. And the people will be governed according to that. But because the people are in millions, they collect all that power and put it in one person, in the president. So he's saying it is not a judge's ruling. Remember, you even edited what he said. He said it is the people and him. The people who
even put himself, he said it's the people of Uganda who rule.
Yes, I know, he said through the president. He said it. So, therefore, what he is saying is that the judiciary interprets, and that is why the judiciary says the army court is inconsistent with the constitution, because they are looking at the constitution, they are looking at the act. Their work is just to interpret. Exactly. But the political mischief that the law comes to correct, because as I said, the law comes to correct a wrong in a society. If that wrong exists, in fact, even if they are killing people on the street, if you don't take it to the judges want to move on a motion of their own. They will want you to take it. And therefore, who takes it? Who stops that killing? Who makes sure society is in order? It is the chief executive. And putting that society in order is what you can use other terms as ruling. You can say maintaining law and order, or maintaining peace, maintaining killing mischief or removing mischief, making societies harmonious, call whatever it is, but that is ruling. And that is why I had said that if a law is passed wrongly, the court says that law, interprets and said that law is wrong. Now it is back to the chief, to the ruler or the driver or the person making the society is okay, whatever title you give him, to say now this mischief still exists. What do we do? So by saying judges don't rule, the president simply interpreting Article 1 of the Constitution. Power belongs to the people, but the people choose who they want to lead them.
But you are supposed to work in unison with these people. For example, if you're president,
that is
you're supposed to work with the Chief Justice. Why is it that when the Chief Justice brings something that you don't ideally agree with, then it stops being right?
Then you become the legal advisor.
Because that position that is put by the Chief Justice in their attempt or in their procedure to interpret the law, that position doesn't cure. For example, if the court says, if the court takes a practice of granting bail, okay? Now, and you know in a village, these people who are being granted bail, go kill. Now, what is the role of the leader then? What is the role of the leader? Is to say, much as you are applying that law was made by us to stop this killing. But now you are releasing.
Why don't you go back to Parliament and then amend their law?
That is what Museveni is saying.
Okay, now let me come to you.
That's what Museveni is saying. Attorney General should draft.
That's the thing. Let me come to that particular solution. You are a counsel. In fact, I would call you a senior counsel at that. How practical is this referenda that the president is talking about, creating a referendum and actually amending the constitution? How practical is it in this particular case?
He's actually not saying a referendum. He was just hanging out many options. He was talking of many options. Can be a referendum, and for us to go to a referendum, there are particular contentious issues. The Constitution already specifies that you can amend this, you can amend that, you can. But when it comes to this, it must be a referendum. But when he was saying that, he was talking in general terms. He was citing methods, the various methods of constitutional amendment.
How practical is that?
The practicality is there. I think any of you can remember the practicality of amending. For example, I think one of the contentious provision is power belongs to the people. Okay? Power belongs to the people. Now, if you have to do that, the practicality is you get to Parliament to process that referendum through a line ministry, put logistics in it. For example, if it's to be done by Electoral Commission, if the mandate is given to Electoral Commission, Commission prepares procedures of doing it, okay? Whether it is yes or no, that those in favor say yes or say no, or whatever you think. You design symbols for those who are campaigning for either side, and then it is put. That is a practicality. So you just get the vehicle to carry it.
Okay, because lastly, because I have to come to him, do you think there is a need, personally, and this is the opinion of Pollar, which the person, do you think that that's reason enough to go through those processes to amend the Constitution? Do you think that reason the president is basing on is genuine enough?
Yeah, it's genuine because he's saying he doesn't want to be a Museveni thing. He doesn't want the resolution to be a Museveni resolution. So he is putting it to the people. Let the people choose. So it
Ochieno is disagreeing.
No, because Comrade Awich, actually, with respect, you seem to be suggesting that unless Mr. Museveni is satisfied about anything that Parliament does or the judiciary does, he's got a right to find an anomaly. Of course, all of us, whether we disagree, create a reason and run with it. Quite clearly, the highest court. The highest court. Okay, yeah.
It can answer you straight. It is true. As a chief driver, he has the mandate to see things are running well in the country. So he has a right, if something is wrong, to object.
That's absolutely.
Yes, but also I can give you a long list of things that has been decided by Parliament and Cabinet, which Museveni didn't agree, but he let pass. He let pass. Let it go.
My point.
But as a chief driver, he has a right to say, Parliament, no. You're not right. I'm not even signing that bill. I'm not signing that bill. I'm not ascending to it. He has a right.
Okay. I think I've seen something by Justice Kanyahamba who makes a very interesting observation, and that is that Mr. Museveni is a military guy. We know he studied some economics and some political science. But Mr. Museveni is quite clearly not a lawyer. The 7 justices of the Supreme Court have made considerations and taken a position. And Mr. Museveni is taking us aback. Because I don't want this conversation. I want this conversation to be hailing, like all of us, the 3 of us were on quorum at the beginning, that we want to celebrate whatever happened on Friday and then move forward. But to bring us, I think we risk this business of giving Museveni another small little Colombo referendum. They say, no, Museveni, the political advisor, and Museveni, the legal advisor, the military guy, is now becoming the legal expert in securing a lacuna. Something that the justices of the Supreme Court, people whom we pay very highly, and people who are highly learned, in their kangaroo thing here in Makindi, funny soldiers were trying to struggle, basically, to make legal arguments. And by that, I may have studied some law, as you know.
Yes,
and you could see this guy struggling. Actually, quite embarrassing to us. And they wasted our time and our resources. Now the justices of the Supreme Court have ruled. I think Museveni to come and begin to make his crude argument because he's pushing his Museveni's agenda. That all of us know. I think it's absolutely wrong.
Okay.
But quickly. Museveni's defense, his son said something that I will give to read. Commander Awich, Chris Magezi, is he head of, NRA, the top? Official UPDF statement. Whatever. Terrible. The General Court Martial will continue to try anyone who conspires to murder the president, commits armed rebellion, against Uganda and engages in terrorism against the people of Uganda. Under no circumstances will Kizza Besigye be released until he faces the full extent of the martial law. The final decision on this matter will be taken by the Commander-in-Chief and Chairman of the High Command, General Museveni.
Yeah,
that's why I'm bringing that.
That is Chris.
So that is extraordinary and official army statement from the army.
It's not the
taking
official
that position. No, please don't spoil it.
The official army
official. He said
the Director of Public Information, Acting Major General.
Don't fudge it because
that's what he said.
Which is really finding
Kulaije said, Acting Major General Kulaije said that
this was a wrong statement.
They will accept whatever thing that has been said by the Constitution,
so
the Supreme Court.
And
that is the Director for.
So you're clarifying on behalf of NRA that Kulaije, who's a good friend of mine, has said that this statement was erroneous and this guy should be this guy should be taken to the court martial because really this guy has gone against the provision. But finally there's a little thing here. The commander, Mr. Museveni's son, who's the CDF, has issued a statement here that I want you to read for the public.
First of all, he has not issued the statement.
Okay, he said it on his Twitter thing.
No, this is a Twitter called Muhoozi Kainerugaba Quotes. It is not the reflection of Mr. Muhoozi itself, but there is an idea that the things that are put on this page agree with what he believes. They say the traitor Besigye will only leave prison in two ways, either in his coffin after we hang him or shoot him, or on his knees apologizing to Muzee. This is not the official account of Mr. Muhoozi.
And these are things which are happening in this country. No, if you don't mind. These are things which are happening in this country and we shouldn't let go. Because I don't want to come to these programs and basically just another
let him first.
No, this is a very serious national. But I hand on.
Let him first also submit because I think you brought it and that's what I wanted to ask. One about which the fact that some serving soldiers can come out to make such statements. For example, Colonel Chris Magezi, putting that on his social media. How doesn't this undermine what you're talking about, what many people were saying? There is a semblance of independence, at least the judiciary is independent, but after the judiciary making such a decision, then a serving soldier comes out with such a statement. What do you think?
First of all, I want to say something about his insistence that when the Supreme Court judges rules, that should be final. What I have insistently said here is that jurisprudence develops. When the law is passed, the court argues. The court sees gaps. When the court sees gaps, it can even cancel sections of the law. Stage one is law is passed. Stage two is courts argue and cancel it. Stage three is the executive comes and makes new law. That is the scientific development of law. I don't see the difficulty that judges have argued and the executive come to cure that gap. There's nothing wrong with this.
Okay.
And remember that these judges are simply using the law made by us. So for him, he's thinking like the judges are using their wisdom from God. They're using our laws. And that is why if you go to court, there are judges who even tell court that counsels have not advised court because the judge is there to hear from counsel X and counsel Y. He said, but you have not advised me.
Exactly.
So they're just using the law. So who gives them the law? It is us. It is the parliament. And which the law is assented to by the president. You could even withdraw the one he was using and he has nothing. So it is not hard and frozen. Let's subject ourselves to the development of the jurisprudence. Parliament make laws. They think it is the best. Courts come to argue it. cancel some sections.
Yes.
Executive comes to see how to refill it, and that is the development. So you find us going forward.
Okay. Comment on Colonel Magezi's statement.
Colonel Magezi, the army is a ministry, army is a department, and then thereby under Ministry of Defense. Ideally, statements from that particular ministry should restrict themselves to matters of the army. If he thought this was matters of the army, then be it. But I'm very aware that the disciplined UPDF know the relationship of the subordinacy of the subordinacy of the military to civilian authority. That is what the Constitution provides. The military is subordinate to civilian authority. But also, they know the superiority of a law, that the law is supreme. So, I know they issue these statements well alive to those facts.
So what is in their mind to do that, to continue making such statements when they know all those facts?
I need to contextualize his statement. I'm just seeing it here. I haven't seen it, so I need to contextualize to understand what the circumstance and the background. But I know the disciplinary that we have. Remember.
But you can know the context according to the
NRM
statements he has made.
NRM as a party, in one of our manifestos that we marketed to the people to vote for us, we put in our manifesto that if you vote for us, we shall professionalize the army. It was a key thing in our manifesto. It was a flagship provision in our manifesto.
So the treats are an
outcome. If you vote us, if you vote us the party, we shall form a government. And when we form a government, we shall professionalize the army by giving budget to the army, giving money for training, and giving the line ministry the mandate to train and equip the man. So we as a party, we are happy and we hope that the army behaves professionally. Because it was in our manifesto in a 1 or 2 election back, which we thought we had achieved it.
Okay, but it's being indisciplined. If a kind of
that's why I want to see the context of that.
Okay, so
that's why I want to see the context.
Vianney,
okay.
How can they implement these
now
things? Can they actually be implemented according to what you're seeing? Do you think Kanovesije can actually be released from the general court martial and handed over to the civilian courts?
Let me bring an eye opener. This mistake is not for the military.
Which mistake?
Is that of the military coming in to rival the decisions of whoever, as they are subordinate, as you are saying. It is the mistake of the party. Within the party, they have the Directorate of Rigo. The Directorate of Rigo didn't save them. There are innumerable grave mistakes there, because when you say defense spokesperson, a defense spokesperson is a military personnel, legally wrong.
These days
you are stipulating that and exposing that that ministry is for the army in uniform.
They have changed it. It's now Director of Public Information.
Where's the public? This one is a serving who? It's not public who. What you should understand.
Okay.
Form and content are not similar. You need to know that. So, police, in policings and whatever, and crime prevention, spokespersonship comes in. Spokespersonship goes with public relations. Where do you think that when I disclose this information will reach the relationship with us and the public, you conceal? Because you want to bridge that gap of relationship. My brother, fellow corporate, I'm giving you a report. You need to note it seriously. This report is to inform you that the chambers of the Attorney General, they are not with you. That chamber. I have
with
a
the NRM?
Of government.
I'm saying.
Yeah, but it's the NRA, so.
It's not with NRM.
Chamber of Attorney General,
They
they are not with us.
That's why they're
Let me not exclude myself there.
That's
I
why-
have a letter. Tomorrow, I will share it with
How
you.
so are they not with you?
I'm bringing a letter, asking how soon. That is a blueprint. One of our people within your agreement of war ravaged areas brought a claim of war claims. So the Chamber of Attorney General comes in with saying that there is no evidence. Comrade Wich, remnants of bad governance with their army, they have stormed my house. How do I sit with them? They have come to kill me, to get evidence, such statements, to film them, to bring the neighbors to write and testify. How? Like in Nakasek, as you remember. So, and those people, they are not friendly to us. They quoted legal notice number 1. I wrote a letter to them to give us that legal notice, which they quoted, that bad it. Nobody who should claim war claims. They refused to release it out. Let us leave that one alone, was to defend and inform my comrade about what is transpiring within his home.
Okay.
Simple logic. The law don't go into technicalities of it. When, before the passing, when they are still in court, they advise us not to comment. They have already adjudicated. You are saying that it is they arrived at a wrong decision. What is the higher? When you weigh. Don't incite people. Let themselves come in to demand. To tell them that you demand. Power belongs to you. No. They are there, they will come in. We must all together.
As you conclude, yeah.
We must all together handle Parliament. Parliament now at stake from the reports and the picture we have is for the merchants to score what they will eat with their role of parliamentary commission. Other roles that will organize us, and according to the constitution that is agitating for them to make laws for peaceful Uganda. What Uganda, what they are interested in is service awards, everything.
Wow.
Who scores the
Thank you
answer,
so much,
who
sir.
takes over the answer.
Welcome to Ochieno. In a minute or two, because I want us to conclude on this issue and take the remaining 15 minutes to talk about what is in DRC. What is your conclusion on the roadmap, and especially the fact that, as you're speaking today, we are not seeing any semblance of change, especially in implementing this particular, Supreme Court judgment that was made?
I think that's in part is really my frustration. And really we are friends of NRA, as you can see, I'm a friend of UPM. You know, we are friends of NRA because I genuinely believe that NRA needs to be helped to liberate itself from a sense of arrogance and entitlement, and definitely a sense of impunity. And there are people in NRA who are manifesting tendencies and behaviors and postures which are really worse than Idi Amin. And yet I have experienced friends like Comrade Awich, with whom sometimes you wonder why don't we share a commonality up to and including an ideology? And all of us here, actually, when we come on this space, you know, so genuinely for those of us who are looking for the future of this country,
yes, sir,
you know, in a much more civil way, I am frustrated. I think the problem is that Mr. Museveni has just shown us that everything about this country is about himself and almost himself and his family, you know, and that is something that cannot really be sustainable.
Okay.
And I think we have to say it and we have to call out Mr. Museveni on this, hoping that more people in his organization are able perhaps to try and restrain him and to encourage him to wake up so that we're able to find a common ground on which we're able to push towards a new Uganda where there's a rule of law and where the law, national constitution, party constitutions are respected.
Okay. Yeah. You're still watching the Hotline Show. We have 15 minutes to the top of the hour. Let me come to you, Honorable Awich. And let's go directly to what is happening in DRC. According to Mr. Paul Kagame, President of Rwanda, who is one of the people who are in the middle of this controversy, he says that the solutions have not actually been fostered well, or the conversations to bring genuine solutions to the end of that particular insurgency or fight between the M23 and the mainstream government of DRC. They have not been held well, and he says that it's the process, the peace talks have become an end in themselves. What do you think about this particular controversy that is happening there, and how can it be solved really?
It is unfortunate what is happening in DRC, especially for persons like some of us who genuinely want justice. We have lived and yearned for justice, and we have practiced justice. I have been judge in United Nations at the highest level of this world, and justice, fairness is part of me. In fact, I always make jokes with friends that even when I see in a wrestling one huge person and a weaker one, do you know, automatically I support the weak side. Even in football almost. If Brazil is playing with Malawi, I will rather support Malawi. So fairness and justice is part of me. And it is unfortunate to see what is in Congo. It pains. For example, we don't even know who is telling the truth. Some people put the idea that M23 is there. Oh, first of all, some people put the thinking that Congolese government is saying Banyamulenge are foreigners. In other words, the Tutsi speaking are foreigners in Congo. Congo is saying, no, we have not said that at all. And Congo cites many examples of commanders in their national army who are Tutsi. Then they said Congo has refused to integrate M23. And then Congo is saying, no, we want to integrate. The condition that M23 gave was that we shall remain as a unit or a brigade or something. The Congolese government is saying, no, when you join the national army, you are subject to deployment like any other. M23 doesn't want. Then you hear Kagame saying, and Kagame really, you know, have very high respect. Remember that he went to the Great Tertiary School, my school.
I knew you were bringing that. Look at him boasting.
Really but your OB has been open at least to say that these are the things we have talked about, but you have, and he's mentioning even names.
Now, OB says, senior old boy Paul, you know, when we talk of OB, we say Paul because we talk like a colleague. OB Paul says M23 is a Ugandan. He says he integrated in Rwanda, the ones which had this connection. There's no problem. He said this one is a Ugandan. So you really wonder where is the myth truth? Where is the truth in this? And that is how it affects some of us who really yearn.
But are these mediators really trying to mediate, or it's just politics as usual? The South Africa that we're seeing, Cyril Ramaphosa, the SADC, do you think they are bringing about unity or they are dividing the country more?
You can't even know the truth because you hear SADC sits in their SADC meeting, and you seem to see a line like SADC there's a provision in their defense pact which says when a member state of SADC is attacked, the entire bloc
is attacked, yes.
it should mobilize in defense.
Exactly.
So, meaning therefore, if you take M23 not as an internal rebellion, if you take it like a foreign aggression with its definition, then the SADC would lawfully be authorized to assemble their armies. And they said the provision there doesn't say you pick one country. You said the whole group come as a group in defense.
Okay.
So, now, in that case, therefore, in view of a SADC sitting, can there therefore be a SADC trying to implement the provision in their defense pact, and also a SADC which is doing mediation? This thing is so messy that at the end of the day, it is the ordinary one inch suffering.
Exactly.
You don't know the truth. I don't, just to finish, I don't know whether there are experts in this area who can come and tell us. But even the experts, you don't know whether they are opinionated experts or experts without opinion.
Everybody is telling their story according to their side. But let me come to you, Vianney. How can that situation be solved? Do you think it can actually be practically solved by these East African leaders, or we are just doing politics generally?
The situation can be solved without involving the practitioners. If we want this one sorted out, the commanders of M23 doesn't participate in the dialogue or in the peace talks. The Tshisekedi is part shouldn't intervene. Let them get neutral and impartial people within the DRC, like the elders, like religious leaders, like senior citizens of the country to sort it out. If they don't use that one, it will be impossible.
The DRC does not want to even talk to the M23.
It will be impossible because of the following ground at stake. What caused so is a mistake compounded by Tshisekedi. One time I remember William Torobert by then, when he was a president of Liberia, advised Amin that don't put these people at death row. Amin objected. So Tshisekedi putting those 170 plus,
yes,
it is what has empowered M23. And those with him in DRC, they are not friendly to him. They are wishing him a bye because of the following sites within the demonstrations in Kinshasa. People attacking embassies.
Uganda,
They
Rwanda,
want to
Kenya,
anger the
US.
French. The French were not in their business. With Uganda, you can brand them. With Rwanda, you can brand them. They are neighbors. But with the French, how do they come in? So this self-styling, angry, siding with Tshisekedi, attacking embassies of foreign countries, they are inviting those countries to support either M23.
They are saying you're already supporting. That's why they are even...
Either any faction.
No, you're already supporting.
Kinshasa.
Vianney, you're already supporting. That's why they are destroying those embassies, because they believe those countries, they have an interest in that particular field.
They have evidence that they are supporting.
Whether they have or not, we are at a question of settlement. That's what you have asked us.
Yes.
What can settle this one at stake? It is only what I have told you. The problem of regional blocks, international blocks, are being zeroed individually on trusted presidents elected by the population within that country. When they disagree, it affects the population.
Okay, let me come
So
to you.
all those matters, we need to change the law.
Yeah, okay.
Which Pollar, your team is not helping us, a team of lawyers, change laws of the integration. The integrators are the citizens, are not presidents who are servants of them.
Okay, no problem. Let me come to you. Ochieno, how do you conclude this particular issue of the feud in Democratic Republic of Congo? And it feels like the DRC does not want to talk to M23 anytime soon. And M23 believes they are going to march up to Kinshasa.
No, that's actually not true, that DRC doesn't want to talk to them.
In the last East African Summit, there was no DRC show.
No, I'll try to give you context as much as I know. Except to say, Vianney, that I think it would be unfair really to the nation states at this level, because we must accept that Congo is a sovereign nation, Uganda is a sovereign nation, and regardless of our views and opinions about their leaders, I have very strong view about some of their leaders. Many of them I view as illegitimate. But there's no way in which you can have a settlement in Uganda without Mr. Museveni, and certainly there's no way in which you can have a settlement over DRC without involving President Kagame. And so therefore there's no way in which we can't involve the leaders of the community. The issue is who else are parties to this, and who else pushes this, and who basically is the peacemaker in this. Now, there was a Luanda Accord that nearly brought a settlement, and as part of that Luanda Accord, that's where I find a bit of contradiction. Kagame says it is Tshisekedi who's breached that, and Tshisekedi says the other. But underlying is also another treaty here, and comrade, we should you'll forgive me again, in which from Christmas Gezi official CDF General Muhoozi Kainerugaba, I have said it many times. If anyone touches Rwanda, that means war with Uganda. No one in this world has a right to disturb Abana Ba Rohinda, something along those. And some of these things have gone around. Now, so quite clearly we know the truth. All of us know the truth about what's going on. The issue is how much, even for me, who is critically opposed to this regime, many times I leave quite a lot of things, because at the end of the day, we want to live basically a future. No, the dispute in Congo is about resources. The dispute in the Congo is about the personalities of the leaders of Uganda, Rwanda, and Congo, all of whom have got different kind of interests, and some of the leaders of East African communities, including Kenya and others. And then, of course, foreign forces who continue to want to mine and control Congo, which is the richest country in the world as far as human natural resources are concerned. Why part of the reason why Ugandan embassy was a hit in the Congo is this thing that Kagame actually exposed Uganda onto, said, look, my M23 as Comrade wishes, I integrated them. But M23 following the settlement of 2012, 2013, these guys were settled in Uganda. The point is,
in the hunger barracks.
How did these people leave Uganda? Did they leave with their equipment?
One would say Museveni warned that they cannot keep them there for a while.
No, but the point, okay,
that we cannot keep them for.
Okay, fair enough. Did then Mr. Museveni say, I'm releasing them, and where did he release them to? So in other words, Mr. Museveni is absolutely responsible for it, meaning Uganda. Now, it becomes very difficult for anybody to believe that Uganda, represented by Mr. Museveni, is not a part of this. We know Uganda is involved.
No, CDF said that.
No, you guys.
Those are our
and then CDF says that, and I mean, he said many others that I don't want to refer to. We sometimes even risks, if you consider what happened in Rwanda in 1994, it's actually very worrying that we want to try and help Mr. Muhoozi and others to calm down the street, because we don't want that.
Okay.
Comrade Rich again is very quickly right that look, there are Tutsi in Congo who are Congolese, and that's absolutely a fact. The issue is really expansionist agenda by certain interests in this place. Okay. That's why I have called for SADC to get much more involved, East African community to get much more involved. And my view is that the African Union at the top, somebody senior, really actually President Mbeki would do a very good job. Okay. Although Mbeki seems to is alleged to be leaning towards Kagame, he seems to be reasonably objective. That maybe on the table can have a conversation about these things to resolve the conflicts in Congo. Do you know why? It's urgent to resolve the conflicts in Congo, because it's absolutely in our interest that we resolve the conflicts of Congo. Congo regains its sovereignty. East Africa enjoys Congo, and Africa as a continent enjoys the sovereignty of Congo, because the resources in Congo, together with the resources in Uganda, if we mobilize ourselves as Pan-Africanists, you know what? Would be a powerful, rich continent going forward. Problem.
There are still many countries in DRC as we're speaking. Uganda is there, Rwanda is there, we have South Africa, Malawi. all those countries still have an interest in the Democratic Republic of Congo. We shall be finding out how it will be unfolding, but as Digitalk TV, we will keep informing you on some of the developments in that particular part of the region. Tomorrow we'll be having the MP for Busiro East constituency, that is Honorable Council Medad Lubega Segona. So do not miss him at exactly 8 a.m. You'll be having a conversation with him tomorrow on the Mighty Drive. So do not miss that particular engagement. From the entire team, God bless you. It's exactly 9 p.m. We shall see you again tomorrow, same time, same station. Good evening.
The Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.